these are the panels for the roof. You can see how nice and decrepit all of the shingles look. We'll go through and I'll discuss where they all go. Just want you to see them. So I did something a little bit different this time with my inking, okay? You can actually find these in the Dreaming Tree app, which we have available for iOS and for Android. So just look up Dreaming Tree on either of those stores. And instead of inking them with my felt applicator, I found these little brushes. Actually, my mom turned me onto them. And what I did was just kind of apply the ink onto the brush, and this really made super quick work of it. And you'll notice it doesn't seem like there's a lot coming off. I'm going to be using these on an autumn project that we're working on soon, but I'm just kind of doing little circles here and applying it like that, and you'll see it's very subtle, but it does give it a cool gradient look, which is what I really love. And now watch when I put this on printer paper just so that you could specifically see that little pattern that it left. So you know that it did put a lot on there, and once we have these all layered, it will really pop. Now, one thing I do want to mention, you'll notice that I embossed this, but these pieces are super wide, okay? So what I ended up doing, and I guess I'll call this a hack, okay? I'm gonna call it a hack. And I did this on a lot of the pieces in this project because, for one, we didn't want to break these up into smaller sections to fit embossing folders. So believe it or not, what I did was I would put these in, okay, like so, and literally on my craft room floor, here's my new craft tool, just a rubber mallet. And I just smacked this. Okay, now you can see it only fits so many, right? Well, the cool thing about embossing folders is you can just move it over and you can literally feel when it fits into that groove. Close it, and then depending on how hard you hit will determine how well it gets embossed. But it worked really well, and actually as I got into the process, I didn't even use my embossing machine because it was such a pain. So you got to sit there and crank it. With this, I just grabbed my mallet and just whacked the devil out of it. Once we get these into place, we're going to actually curl these up a little bit. We'll go through that process later. But the reason I brought this out was because I wanted to share those two little tips with you, and it's just kind of a natural transition into our dormer windows, which we're going to assemble. Okay, so there's 3 sizes. We'll just lay these out like this so that it all makes sense to you. Okay, you can see that obviously this is the smallest one. This one, we'll call it the middle size one, and this one's a little bit larger. You can tell by the middle here. Okay, and then of course we have a panel, and I embossed that with a, well, it's no longer available. It's an old Cuttlebug folder, so that's going to go like that. This is going to go like this, and then we have got an overlay for that, and then 2 side pieces. So each one of those is going to have that, and then there's 2 sections of shingles. Okay, so we'll do one at a time here. We'll start with the smaller one, and I'll point out a few little things as we go. Now I want to do as much as I can while this thing's flat. So that means putting this panel on, I'm going to do that while it's flat. Just a lot easier to do that while everything is nice and flat. You can use your table to kind of help you. Okay, so just match it up with the little cross in there, like so. Get that in place. This overlay, the trim for the window, I just hit that with a little bit of ink. Didn't do much else to it. Didn't want to over emboss things. Okay, so that's going to go like that. So we have that there. And then we have these little guys, and this is just some additional little overlays just to kind of break up the monotony of this coffee color and make things a little more interesting, so you can see where that goes. There's just little triangular pieces. And again, you're going to have 6 of these triangular pieces, but for the larger ones, for the larger windows, you can see the size difference, okay? Now when we get to the 2 larger ones, we may have to kind of grab them all and see which ones fit best. Ultimately, if you put the wrong one in there, it's not really going to make a huge difference, unless, of course, you put the small one on the big window. Then it will make a difference. But for the other two dormer windows, I'm not as concerned about those because they're relatively the same size, and these are mostly hidden away in the final project anyway. Okay. All right, so there's that, and we can begin just kind of piecing this together. Make sure you fold everything, obviously, at the score marks. These little tabs here, we are not going to do anything with those quite yet. Those are there to help us anchor this to the actual structure once it's done. But for now, you can begin by applying glue to this tab here. Go nice and easy with this. Don't need a ton of glue. Tuck that behind and press that into place. We're just forming our little dormer windows. So I'm calling this part 1 kind of the prep, and then we'll get into actual assembly in part 2. Okay, now we can go over here just above where we put that little gray panel and apply some glue there. Tuck this tab right underneath that little roof part that we just glued together. And press and hold that down. Then we'll bounce over to this side and apply some glue here. And as I mentioned, the remaining tabs here are going to be used to actually anchor this to the roof. So we don't really need to do much else beyond this. And I think we'll assemble some parts of the roof, but we're not actually going to put this on the little dormer, the roof parts, the shingles on this just yet. I would much rather wait to do that after this thing is in the actual structure. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. Again, these little tabs here, all these are going to be used to hold this in place. So we kind of want to leave it like that. And in the meantime, make sure I'm missing something here. Oh, something fell. There it is, it's back there, that's okay. We can get this piece together. You can see there's a tab here. Let's just go ahead and apply some glue to that. I also ran this through an embossing folder as well. And I just did this in sections, okay? Because obviously I want the pattern going the same way on both sides. So I only put half of this in the embossing folder at a time. And then I just whacked it. Actually, this one you could, can you? Let me see. Oh, you know what? I got another tip for you here, and I'll share it with you in just a second. Okay, so you can see how this is going to go on like this. I don't want to put it on just yet, though. Okay, I'm going to leave that alone for now. I can leave that like that. Just keep that together so we know what goes with what. Let me find the other piece for this. I saw it drop back here. Okay, and then this one's going to go on top of this to give it kind of 2 layers of shingles. So that one is ready to go. I'm going to put that off to the side for now, get that out of the way. And let's look at this one here. Now let me pause real quick and kind of share this little tip with you here. So obviously this has a pattern, and I wanted the pattern to be the same on both sides. Well, how do you accomplish that? Well, so here's what I had to do. With this folder, I actually took and I cut a little bit of this plastic off up here. Just a little bit. Just enough to where I could poke this through and get that pattern going down just on the half of it. It's actually sticking through, right? And I whacked it. You could actually, you could run through your embossing machine if you want, because there's nothing out here that's preventing it from doing so. And then when I was done, I flipped it around, shoved it through that little cut, and did the same thing there, and that's how I ended up with these patterns. And that, again, saves on paper and time, which we tried to keep in mind here because this is somewhat of a more involved project, okay? All right, so as I mentioned earlier, with these two larger ones, I'm gonna grab these triangular pieces. We're gonna put them side by side here, but first, let's get this piece in place, just like we did the first time. Just go easy on the glue, and you can see that this one goes with this window because of the shape of the cutouts. You'll notice on the left-hand side of this cross, it's a little bit thinner. Here, it's thicker. Okay, so just make sure you match it up with the correct one, just like that. Oh, and you know what we can also do, totally forgot, we can put the vellum in place as well, which we'll probably do since we're kind of going through everything systematically here. Okay, so that's going to go like that. Perfect. Okay, and again, these are relatively the same size. You know, it's hard. We were going to label every little piece of this, but it's almost not important. So find the two smaller ones and then the two larger ones, just kind of compare them. Keep the two larger ones for the largest window. Grab the two smaller ones, and those are going to go down just like we did the first time. Just make sure that's nice and centered. I had way too much glue on there. It's okay. It's a Halloween project. If we make a few little mistakes here and there, it's not the end of the world. Okay, pop that in place like that. There we go. Okay. All right, so you know what? Kind of forgot to do this before, but grab your, I don't know, oh wait, cut that. All right, so let's put this one together, just like we did the first one. Let's start off by applying glue to this tab here at the top. Spread that out nice and thin. Grab this other piece, tuck it in. So this chocolate color is the main structure, and a lot of it just kind of acts like the bones. We're not really gonna see much of it. It'll be peeking out here and there, but we're gonna go with black, but I thought maybe the coffee would make it not so dark. It's almost black basically though. Okay, so tuck that in, press that up against this part here, and just press and hold. Give that a few seconds. There we go. Moving on to the next one. So there's only 3 dormer windows. We have a lot of little trim pieces. And okay, so this one looks great. Let's pull these tabs out this way just to get them ready. And then of course, by the way, to help differentiate the top pieces here for our dormer windows, you'll see that these two larger ones look kind of similar. Look for the one that, well, on this one here, it's this little center here. The cutout is a little bit lower, and on this one the cutout's a little bit, it's more in the middle. This middle one is going to go on this window here that has this shape window. This one's going to go on the largest one. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And we'll apply some glue here. Spread that out. And get that closed up. So it's ready to go for later. Okay. So you can see how that's going to fit on there like that. And then this one here, this one's just folded. There's no gluing involved. And that's going to go on top like that. Okay, so let's put that off to the side for now as well. I'm going to keep my dormer windows here for now because we are going to apply our vellum before we finish up. So let's get the last dormer window, and this again is the larger one. And again, look at the shape of the little cutout, okay? Make sure that matches up. And we'll throw a little bit of glue on there, like so. Just match that up like that. There we go. Let's put our trim in place. Nice and easy with the glue. Such a delicate, small little piece. You don't need a lot. Press that down. There we go. And then, of course, we have our little panels for the sides. Just make sure that's nice and centered. I don't know why I keep putting so much glue on these. It's okay. Go a little bit easier. And press that into place. There we go. All right, so I've got that, and just like we did for the first two, we'll apply our glue to this tab here to form the pitch of the little roof portion. Grab that other end, line it up as accurately as you can. If a little glue comes squirting out there, not a big deal, because we're going to be putting our little roof on there anyway, the shingles. Okay, and then we'll move over to this tab, thin that out nicely, tuck that behind and under the main part of the roof portion of the dormer window, and hold that in place. We'll move over to the other one, like so. Spread that out. Got a little mouse in here. I'm out in the country, and of course, this studio isn't the most sealed. Works great, but it could be a little more sealed. Actually, it'd be better if my cat was out here all the time, because I know he would take care of this. Okay, so there's that, and then of course, now remember, I'm gonna say this one more time. These two windows here, take a look at the shape of the cutout. On this one here on the left-hand side, it's a little bit skinnier. On the left side, it's a little bit thicker, okay? Now this part here, the first layer that goes on this one that's shaped like this, you'll notice that this little cut right here is a little bit lower, okay? And this little cut is a little bit higher. It's more in the middle, okay? So that's how you know which one goes with what. All right, let's go ahead and get this glued into place. Way too much glue there. Got a little excited. Okay, we'll tuck that behind. Line it up nicely. Don't worry about that glue there. It's going to be covered up anyway. So that's going to go like that. And then this guy here is going to go right here. Okay, and also, by the way, okay, so the best way to figure out this final layer as far as where it goes, take it and put it on top of this layer that we've already constructed, and it should be flush. Okay, so I'm taking this one here, and I'm noticing that it kind of goes beyond this one. This one here, if I pop it right on, it's perfectly flush. So that's going to go there. And then this one, if I test it out, it is perfectly flush. That's going to go there. Okay, so we have our 3 dormer windows. And now I want to flip these around, and while I still have access, let's go ahead and apply our, let's get some vellum put in place here. Okay, so find all of these that are just kind of square. They're rounded, but they're mostly square. There's one that is not perfectly square. It almost looks like one of those candy dots. It's a little bit thinner on one end. Get that one out of there. Then just kind of line these up by size, and you'll notice that there's 4 of them that are the same size, okay? And the 4 that are the same size, we're actually going to use 3 of those for these. All right, and with that said, on the inside here, just apply a few dots around the perimeter of the window, and then just pop that into place. Just give it a light press. You don't even need to push it down that hard. The glue will do the work. Try to avoid, what's going on here? Try to avoid getting glue to push out into the viewing area or the actual area where the light is going to shine through. So just be very careful getting that in place. Just a few little dots of glue. I'm not even putting any glue on the little cross part because I don't want to accidentally get that to slide through. Okay, so there we have it. All right, so our dormer windows are done. We've got them all figured out as far as what goes with what. I'm going to put that off to the side and can begin working on, now let's put together our chimney. Okay, and I closed it up and did some inking on it. And with this, it's just a matter of putting some little panels on it. Okay, so what I would do is just arrange these from like largest to smallest. Obviously, this is for the top. There's 4 pieces that kind of look like a little trapezoid. Those are going to go in the centers. The bottoms kind of look like that. And then the tops are the most wonky looking ones. So yeah, it's a little puzzle, but we'll get it. Okay, so just to kind of work our way down, start off by putting the cap on. The less pieces we have, the easier it's going to be for you to figure out what's what. Get that nice and centered. I did not emboss that because it's not really a brick. Okay. Next, these middle sections here, so there's a top, middle, bottom, top, middle, bottom. They all kind of use this little trapezoid shape, okay? And all we're gonna do is just match that up like so. Pretty simple. Go easy with the glue. And just get that nice and centered. These shapes are all pretty much the same, so I wouldn't, they just go in different directions. So just make sure you grab the right one. And if you don't grab the exact right one, it's not a big deal. There we go. This one's going to go here. Right in the center. Make sure you've got a nice even border around. You can see the folds here. We got it centered. Okay. And that just leaves one more, and that's going to go right here. Just a little bit of glue. Okay, there we go. So we got those out of the way. And now let's look at the bottoms. Okay, this one here is this guy here. You can tell it's mostly straight. These are slightly angled. Well, this one is not angled and this one is not angled, and these two are angled. Okay, so this is the largest one that is mostly a regular shape, I guess you could call it. There we go. We'll go over to this side. Roughly the same shape, just a little bit shorter. Pop that one right there. Okay. And then these guys here, you can see the actual shape. Just follow that shape. It looks exactly like that, but it's just a little bit smaller, right? There we go. Pop that into place. And the last one for the bottom. Again, make sure you maintain a nice even border around that gray. And that just leaves these 4 sections here. And we just need to find which one goes where. You can see that this one's going to go here. And this one is going to go there. This guy is going to go here. You can just tell. Anyway, let's just start gluing them down. Pretty self-explanatory. But yeah, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this one is going to take you a little bit of time. But I know I've said this in videos, in past videos, but it has never been more true than it is with this project. And that is that Rome was not built in a day. So this is definitely going to be, that's why I broke it up into 2 sections. I'd spend 1 day maybe doing the prep, and day 2 doing the actual assembly. I'm doing this all in 1 day. You know, with inking, maybe you're talking 2 full days. We'll see. All right, so there it is, and we're just going to begin assembling this thing. So let's start at the top. Just pick a tab, any tab, doesn't matter. All we're doing is just kind of going around the horn and bringing each section in, lining it up with its neighbor, and pressing it down into place. This is very Dreaming Tree 101. We've done this many times. Okay, this one's just so happens to be kind of an odd shape, which is okay. All right, so we're going to tuck that in, line that up as closely as you can. There we go. I'm going to need to wash my hands a bunch of times today, I'm sure. Okay, next tab. Thin that out. And press that into place. Now this is where it may help to, and we're going to have to tuck that in. It might help to just grab a little dowel to help you push up against the tab from the inside, since it's kind of in a little crevice there. And also, maybe a good time to grab some scrap pieces of paper to help us paint some glue on these tabs that are kind of in the corner. So I just painted glue on that tab. I'll press it down, grab my little dowel to help me push on that tab from the inside to help that make nice contact. There we go. Okay, and don't forget we need to make sure that we are folding at the score marks, because this thing has a super wonky shape. Okay, so just moving on to the next tab, whichever one that may be, and we'll get that lined up and then press that into place and just hold. Get that out of the way, apply glue to the next section. There we go. And bring that in, line that up as accurately as you can. There we go. Move that out of the way. Apply glue here. Now, as we pop this one into place, make sure that this little tab here, you get that inside. Don't leave it out. Fold it in, bring it down, and press that up against there. Okay, now we're not going to be able to really get our glue nozzle in there. So this is where using our little painting method is going to be a lifesaver. Just tuck that right on there, apply it to that tab, and then just press that down and hold it. Make sure it's nice and aligned. And there we go. If you need to, pop that little dowel in there, press up against it, and there we go. Okay, so we just have one more layer, and actually it looks like this layer sort of came undone. I'll clean that up real quick. There we go. So we just have this bottom layer left, and we've got plenty of room at the bottom to hopefully get our finger in there. Okay, so let's start with one of these tabs. I'll start with this one here. Get that out of the way so we don't get glue where it doesn't need to be. Thin that out nicely, and then tuck that right behind, line that up. There we go. Beautiful. We'll go over here, apply some glue there. Thin that out. Tuck it behind, and yeah, you can get your finger in there now, so that's nice. It's always helpful. Okay, and got a couple more to go. Come on, glue. There it is. Thin that out, tuck that in. So you get the idea here. What's a bewitched bungalow without a decrepit chimney or crazy chimney? Okay, so for this last final tab here, I'm gonna paint the glue onto the tab, just like that, so we don't have to force it apart and risk pulling it apart completely. There we go. Now these final tabs here on the bottom, these are what we're actually going to use to anchor this to the roof. Okay, so just much like we did with the dormer windows, we can just spread those out, and there is your wonky chimney. Okay, next we have this little contraption here, and this is essentially just it's one of those little doors that you use to get into the basement of an old house. So this little strip right here, this is going to be the front, and this little guy, just grab these pieces here. Okay, they're really the only ones that are roughly this size. Okay, so this little guy is going to go here, and you can see that I ran all of these through my wood grain embossing folder, and I also inked everything just to give it a nice woodsy sort of look. Is that glue? Yep. Good old glue getting everywhere. Okay, you can see where this one's going to go. Make sure you have a nice even border all the way around. Just like that. And get the other one in place. There we go. Okay, and then for this one's going to go right here in the center, and then we have two little panels that are going to go over it to make it look like a little door. Get that nice and centered. And you can see where the little holes are. We're going to use that as our reference point for alignment. Get that nice and centered. There we go. And one more. Okay. And there we have it. Okay, great. All right, so now it's just a matter of getting it together. So we'll start here in the front with these small triangular tabs. Just throw a little bit of glue right on that guy there. Tuck that behind the front where that little thin panel is. Okay. There we go. And pop the next side over. Press that into place. There we go. Now we'll go over here. And we can try to apply glue to both of these at the same time. I think we got plenty of real estate and plenty of time to handle both of these. Just like that. I'm going to bring this down, line it up. And when you're working with darker cardstock, it's pretty important to keep your fingers clean. Otherwise, we'll leave some unsightly blemishes on your paper. Okay, and then we can fold this down, apply glue to the remaining 3 tabs, and then just close up the bottom like so. Spread that out. There we go. And bring this down. Focus on getting it aligned with this side first, the side opposite of where it's already hinged. Make sure it's nice and flush. And just press that down into place. And there we go. All right, so let's put that little dimensional piece off to the side. And there's a few other things that we can do. Okay, let's get this piece prepped. So find this little piece here that has a portion of the door kind of cut into it. And we're going to put this in place like so. So just go ahead and apply your glue. And we've got a lot of dimensional pieces that are going to make this thing look awesome. And we're gonna start working on that here in just a little bit. But for now, let's get that in there. And then we have this little guy, this little overlay. It's gonna go right there, like so. And just throw a few little dots of glue on that. And then we're gonna flip this over and put our little vellum piece in place on this thing as well. Flip that over, grab one of the smaller little pieces of vellum for that. Just a few little dots around the perimeter and pop that into place like so. And there we go. So that is ready to go. We'll put that off to the side. There's a little fence on the top of the roof, and we're gonna put that together real quick here. Now you'll notice that we have little score marks right through the center here, but there's no score marks along the rest of it. And that's because if we put a score mark on these little guys, they probably would end up tearing. Okay, so what you wanna do is just fold it, and then these will naturally fold without score marks once you get towards the end. Like that. Okay, just like that. Do the same thing on the other side. Start in the center, use those score marks, and then just kind of fold it out the rest of the way. Okay, and the idea here is we're going to glue these back to back like so. Okay, and I can flatten this out again. Just wanted to at least get that folded. And I think we're not going to put any glue on this bottom part, the section below the score mark. Do not put any glue on it. We're only going to put glue on the actual little spike portion, okay? And if it helps, if it makes things easier on you, do it in 2 sections. So just kind of put glue on half of these, all the way up and down each of the posts along this long piece here. And then stop in the middle, like so. Grab the other half, and let's just get half of this aligned first. Okay. I'm gonna pick this up. It's a lot easier to work with. Once you pick it up. And we may need to go in and kind of fine tune and clean up each of these little guys, possibly, by just kind of painting some glue in between the layers. So far, I'm doing a pretty good job actually. I may not need to, but we'll see. Okay, that's not bad. And we'll peel this back and then just continue running our glue definitely along this part here. And then just do some dots. I'm gonna hit this with my finger actually, to spread it out nicely. There we go. Didn't do that the first time, but that's okay. And then the cool thing is that because the first half of it's aligned, this part should just kind of fall into place. It is sort of free flowing, so you will want to make sure that you get everything lined up. But for the most part, you shouldn't have to nudge it around too much. Okay, let's press that down. There we go. Okay, now I can flare these little sections out like so. Okay, and what we're going to do is going to take this and I'm going to pop this little section through this little slit. Just pop it in all the way as far as it'll go. pull it through the other side, and then spread these tabs out, and then just go ahead and put it down flat. So that's what it's going to look like. And this is going to be the little cap for the top of the roof. So what we can do now is pull one of these in just a little bit and just throw a little bit of glue along that section there. And you can literally just press that down. Just be very careful. There we go. That worked nicely. And then we'll do the other side. All the way to the end. Fold that down and press it down. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to take and ultimately glue this entire thing. Oh, wait a minute. It didn't take. I did it too quick. Come on, glue. Do your thing. There we go. And then you can see there's folds there, and those are going to go on top of the roof once it's done. But again, that part is ready. Let's put that off to the side. Okay, next, we're going to put together the cone for the tower, and it's made up of these 8 pieces. They're all pretty much the same. Be careful when you're folding this top one. Start at the base here, and then if you have a bone folder, kind of start at the base, fold it, and then when you get to the top, just do your best to get that as folded as nicely as you can. If it's not perfect, not a huge deal, because we've got a little cap that we're going to put on top of it, but that little section right there might give you a little bit of a hard time. Do your best, and then just press that down like that. Okay, and what we're going to do is I'm actually going to begin at the bottom, okay, like this. Okay, so what we want to do is just ensure that these 2 sections match up. I'm going to go right here first. Okay, these 2 sections here, right there. So let's do that. Begin by applying glue to that little triangular tab. Match this one up, like so. And just press and hold that in place. It's gonna, when you have it flat, they're kind of going away from each other, but ultimately it's gonna go like this. Okay, so now we can move our way up to the next tab. And just spread that glue super thin. We want to make this as painless and quick as possible, and the only way you're going to do that is by ensuring that you're using as little glue as possible. Okay, now once we get up here, this is where it may be a good idea to kind of do more than 1 tab at a time, because we're not going to be able to move things out of the way very easily. I'm going to spread my glue out with a scrap piece of paper, but on the next section here, when we start joining the 3rd piece together, I'll show you what I mean. This one's a little bit easier to pull out, so it's maybe just that middle section that might give us a little trouble. And don't worry about getting glue all over the place. This is all going to be covered up with shingles once we're all done. And you also don't really need to worry about warping or creasing this section either. We just need it to have structural integrity. There we go. Okay, so we got that. Moving on to the next section, that's going to go right here. So it's the same process, but this time, and I think we can do it, we'll get this piece anchored because it helps us with the positioning, the overall positioning. But then the upper sections, I think what we're going to do is try to get glue on all of them and just kind of close it up. Okay, so here we go. So be a little more generous with the glue on these because, well, we're working on 4 at a time. Okay. And let's dab that glue. We'll see if it works. It should. Okay, there we go. tuck that behind, line it up, and it should be a few presses, just like 2 or 3 presses on each little section. Make sure you're getting it nice and lined up, especially up there at the top. And yeah, that worked out nicely. Nice, crisp, and clean, and quick, so we don't have to apply glue a bunch of times. You can just do it in one fell swoop. All right, so we're gonna keep on cruising here. Go to the bottom. And let's get this next piece anchored, just like we've been doing, nothing different. Now, as we get further into the assembly of this little section, there's going to be a little bit of resistance because this thing needs to flare out and open up a little bit more, and that's okay. We'll just have to work with it. All right, so now again, let's get all these tabs going here. And we'll try to do these all in one fell swoop, which we've already succeeded at, so I have no doubt we'll be able to do it again. That little tab at the top, be very gentle with it. There we go. And let's grab this and line it up. Should be just a quick little press. Okay, we need to nudge things a little bit. Now it's going to want to, you're starting to shape it sort of, okay, because it does have a curve to it. It's not just like a pyramid. It does kind of come out like a little bell, I guess you could say. I guess we'll call it. There we go. Okay, so there's half of it. And you know what might be a good idea is to leave this one alone and let it set, and let's work on the other half of it so that when we do start to kind of join these together, the resistance that it's going to give us and the force that we're going to apply to kind of pull it apart won't be as detrimental because the glue will be mostly dry. Okay, so I'll show you what I mean here in a second. But let's go ahead and get all of these tabs covered. There we go. That top one's going to need a little extra love. I can just feel it. Just throw a little extra glue on there and just work your way up like we've been doing. This first one's always the easiest, I think. Here we go. And if you don't get it completely glued all the way up to the top, it's not a huge deal. I wouldn't worry about it. Okay, moving on. Get the next section anchored. There we go. And just line that up. Just like that. And get glue. Let me move this out of the way. Let's get glue on all these tabs again. Thin that out. Don't worry about getting glue all over the place. Again, this will be all nice and hidden. Once we apply our shingles, line it up, and press it into place. Okay, so moving on here to piece number 4 of the second half of our tower cap. Just like before, let's get it anchored. Just like that. Hold that in place for a moment. There we go. And let's get these tabs covered. Nice and easy. And feel free to make some glue mishaps here while the project is still somewhat forgiving. Again, we've got shingles that are going to go over this. They're very easy to figure out where everything goes. It's just a matter of getting them all glued down. Since there's 8 sides, we have 4 layers of shingles. And I think we're gonna do that, I don't know, I'll have to figure that out. Okay, so we have the 2 halves now. So I'm gonna grab this one that's been sitting here drying, and just like we did, we're gonna start by anchoring it at the bottom. Okay, so here's where things are gonna get a little funky, but not horrible. It's just a little awkward to hold. Let me apply some more glue on there. There we go. It's a little bit easier. Just make sure you get that lined up as accurately as you can. And this is where you're going to start feeling that resistance that I was talking about. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to apply glue to all of these tabs so we don't have to try to yank this thing apart while it's almost all together. You don't want to have to deal with that. There we go. And again, don't worry about little glue mishaps here. Not a big deal right now. Maybe flare these out of the way so you can get your fingers in there. And just begin lining that up as accurately as you can. There we go. Make sure that first tab is nice and set. And then you can see that it kind of, I'm pulling it apart in the back here like that so I can get my hand in there. Perfect. Okay, there we go. And that just leaves this last little section here, and that final tab up there, I'm almost not even worried about it too much. Okay, we're gonna work from the top to the bottom this time, just to close it up, as it's gonna be a lot easier. And then we'll glue that one down last. Okay, so actually, you know what, we're gonna go down here, and I need to kind of bend that a little bit, bend both of these a little bit to get the right shape. Okay, so just kind of force it into shape. There's that resistance that I was talking about. It's okay. There we go. There it is. And then the rest of it, as soon as you get that bottom tab, the rest of it just kind of falls into place. I got my finger all the way up here, just pushing up against that. And that's good enough. Okay. And this little guy here, you can actually just fold that down and apply some glue from the inside. And just match that up like so. And there we go. Okay. Oh, hello, Mr. Fly Friend. And then these little guys here, these tabs, we're actually going to use this to anchor this to the main part of the tower. So you can just flare these out like that, and there we go. That's good enough. Like I said, we've got a bunch of these little guys here that are going to get glued down to create the little shingles, and that's going to cover up and hide any little imperfections that we may have, so it'll be fine.